Welcome back, everybody. It is February 5th, 2018, 4:06 p.m. I am back home, so let's get on with this. We have Winter Storm Quinn causing total havoc in Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, North Dakota, South Dakota. Look at all these blizzard and warnings going on. This storm is... The reason that this storm is so crazy is because it's a very, very low pressure system. There's a lot of wind involved with it. We have 60 and 70 mile an hour gusts along this red area here. This is parts of South Dakota, even into eastern Montana. There are some of these wind gusts going on. This is current. As of right now, areas of Bismarck, 5 to 8 inches. Fargo, as we move a little bit closer to the east, we're getting 3 to 5. That's more of a 5 to 8 in my opinion. This is dumping a lot more snow than people had anticipated at first. It is meeting with a moisture system. That same moisture system is now causing not only tornado warnings and watches all over Louisiana right now, at least for the next hour, that may move up into Mississippi and Tennessee. So people in those states, you got to be aware of this. This weather is constantly, because of this Gulf flow that comes up that we always see as we start changing seasons into spring, it brings everything up and then right into the northeast. So the tornadoes usually die down around this area. It is a little rare to get them at this time of year in this area, but it's not out of the question. But Louisiana, you are under current tornado warnings and watches as we speak. That includes western Mississippi, southern parts of Arkansas. It looks like that area wants to curve this way. Now again, I just mentioned that upflow brings weather up this way, but when it comes to the tornadoes, we're dealing with a west to east shear wind. That's very upper level high winds, and then that Gulf flow that comes up and goes up to the northeast, that causes that spin, and that's why we're getting that warning in that little arch way here, at least for the next hour, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, but that will go into Mississippi, okay? So I'm not guaranteeing any tornadoes in this area. I'm just saying they do have current watches and warnings in Louisiana, and then you can see clear as day, all these pink areas are winter, here we go, winter storm warnings, blizzard warnings, all in the red here, and that's also where those high winds are. We are getting gusts of up to 70 miles an hour, guys. That is no joke. And then right next to it, this is all high wind warnings going on, and then we have that pink, which is also winter storm warnings and some red flag warnings, I guess they call that. Usually more towards the coast is when you get the red flag warnings, but it's a similar color, all related to wind and snow in this area, and this is all going to arch, basically beginning tomorrow morning is when this storm is going to go all across the Great Lakes and into the northeast. Now, the northeast is at extra risk right now. They just had an update on the Weather Channel where a lot of these coastal areas, including Boston, as an hour ago, they were saying was going to be on that line of rain and snow mix, and now there's areas all around Boston that go down into Jersey, basically where you see me circling right now, this coastal area, because of that low pressure that's going to spin counterclockwise. Another nor'easter, guys. This is our second nor'easter in 2 weeks, which is a very rare situation. This is our third possible bombogenesis situation going on in a short period of time. Certainly not a common... Ooh, excuse me. Just had a lot of... what do we call it? Pasta and a big piece of birthday cake. There's someone out there that's going to know exactly what I'm talking about with that. Oh my God, was it good. Anyway, sorry guys, back to the weather. Just had to tell you that. So there are areas basically all the way from Chesapeake Bay up around Long Island and into Massachusetts now that could get over 2 feet of snow. That includes northern New York as well. These blue areas are current warnings for something separate right now, winter storm watch. There is snow and pressure coming down from Canada, which is basically a separate system. This is remnants of Riley. So we have our Riley out here leaving the coast, as we have winter storm Quinn, which does seem backwards to some people, but we need to understand it's when these systems formed first. So we did have Quinn over here in the west, which actually was a named system before they named Riley. So Riley just happened to be in the east of the U.S. doing its thing, and I know it looks like Quinn is behind. You got Q, R is the next letter, but they had R on the east and Quinn was on the west. So Quinn was the first forming storm. Same situation goes on with hurricanes. Whichever one forms first, whether it be closer to South or the South African coast, whether it's closer to the Bahamas, it's whatever one forms into a tropical depression first and then into a tropical storm. That's what gets the name. But again, Bismarck, 5 to 8 inches. Fargo, again, my opinion, 5 to 8 inches. It'll be a lot higher than 3 to 5. That includes Minneapolis and then into Green Bay, Wisconsin, 5 to 8 inches. Then we have Alpena, Michigan, is currently getting 1 to 3. That will rise as the storm moves from west to east. But then the big situation for the Northeast is going to be the Noreaster, because we have Quinn as one system moving across, and then we have a big moisture system that is currently causing thunderstorms and things of that nature that are part of that Louisiana tornado watch. A lot of moisture down here because it's warmer. Big strip of moisture being pulled up to the northeast. That's going to cause a low system, which is exactly how we get our nor'easters. It's a low system off the ocean, which I have pulled up for you on one of our tropical tidbits models. I will show you what I'm talking about right there. So by the time Winter Storm Quinn moves its way across the Great Lakes, we have this other low system that interacts with it. It's almost basically a Fujiwara effect, which is when two low pressure systems, this also includes hurricane season, get within about 800 miles of each other. They begin to interact and spin around. It's almost like a yin-yang effect. Usually the stronger of the two survives. It's a little different when you're dealing with nor'easters. They tend to combine. They are not as tight-knit systems as hurricanes are, but they are very much interacting with each other, and that's what causes the nor'easter effect, and that's what causes that loop of wind counterclockwise, and that's going to push all that moisture back into the coast as we have the current dip in the jet stream, and that's why those areas near Boston, and then as you get south into New Jersey, Delaware, and even Maryland could be dealing with 2+ feet of snow. Winter Storm Quinn will be making its move west to east, and as it does so, you can kind of see Quinn right here is where Quinn is as we speak. Like I said, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, northern Illinois down here. It's going to move across the Great Lakes, obviously causing the lake effect snow. So anywhere to the east of any of these Great Lakes, as this system is moving west to east, will get higher amounts of snow than areas inland. So that includes Michigan, and then we turn into the same typical places we talk about: Erie, Watertown, Buffalo. You should expect a significant amount of snow. This also includes northeast Pennsylvania. I just found out we are going to get a significant amount of snow Wednesday, going into Thursday morning. Should be able to do some cleanup by mid-Thursday. It all depends on the speed. We are talking 1 to 2 days, so it does seem fairly accurate to me. Again, I'll back up this chart. I'll run through it once for you guys. You can see the moisture blowing up here. That is all the way from, it doesn't show it necessarily here, but that's all the way stretching from Texas up into these areas, and this is that moisture system that's going to come out to this area as Quinn is moving west to east over the Great Lakes. We're going to have a double spin effect, and that is yet another nor'easter. So we talked about the tornado watches in Louisiana. We have the thunderstorms and this strip of moisture going all the way up Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa. That includes Illinois, Indiana, and then western Kentucky, western Tennessee. Very significant rainfall once again, as we've been dealing with week after week, it seems. This is an NRIL, or I'm sorry, this is the Navy.mil site that I use. This is a military website that is open to the public. You can see here the snowfall. I'm going to move through this. It gives you an idea of why we're getting those high winds. You can see that spin effect going on. It's almost like it's moving forward and then kicking this way. That's what's causing those winds, and that is exactly how we get the nor'easter also. So this is already beginning to spin in a counterclockwise motion. We have the moisture moving up from the Gulf that's getting pushed up to the northeast. Once it gets to the northeast, it will also begin to spin in a counterclockwise motion. These two systems will interact, giving us our nor'easter once again, second time in 2 weeks, just as Riley. Even Riley right now is still affecting the coasts. Now, I'm going to make this a separate video, but there has been a levee breach in Duxbury, Massachusetts. Now, this is not a good situation because they are expecting a high tide to be coming in tonight into tomorrow morning, and they are desperately trying to fill this in. I just watched a video of them dumping rock. This entire piece of the levee wall fell right into the ocean, so I'll dig into that in a separate video. And then we have some other situations going going on. Some actually cooler stuff that, you know, some fun stuff to talk about for once. There was a ship, a World War II ship, I believe, that was actually exposed because of the Noreaster. The Noreaster did so much deterioration to some of these coasts that they found an old warship that turned up in the sand, I believe. I got to look more into it, but I will also talk about that in a separate video. But just to give you an idea of the motion of this, and you could see how, look how it bends up this way, and then watch the change of direction. It goes up, and then it kicks underneath, and then it begins to spin in the opposite direction. And that is why we are getting these 60-mile-an-hour gusts in some of these states, guys. This is just some unbelievable weather. And we are in our second week of March. We are 2 weeks away from the official first day of spring, and we are still dealing with nor'easters and storms that are dropping feet of snow. I mean, 5 to 8 inches could easily turn into a 6 to 12 inch situation. It all depends on where you are. And the reason I labeled out Bismarck and Fargo and Minneapolis is because those are the areas in the pink. Not in this chart in particular, but when you get pink, that is about a foot of snow, and then when you have the spinning situation going on, you get the blizzard conditions with the whiteout, the sideways snow, just the stuff you do not want to deal with. Now, as far as the Northeast goes, let's talk about this real quick. This is our GFS model. You can see this is current time. These are the states being constantly covered in snow as we speak, and here's our strip of moisture all the way from South Texas through Louisiana, where we have the tornado warnings and watches. That goes all the way up, and then you're going to see how these systems interact right there. Low pressure, they're going to begin to spin around each other, and now this is why they are claiming, look, see the yellow? This is moisture, it's not rain. It's going to be cold enough for this to be snow, so that's why they're talking about the 2+ feet in some of these coastal areas, which is just, it's mind-boggling at this point to see this type of stuff going on. So, again, by the time we get into Saturday the 10th, let me back up to Thursday. You can see the snow, at least in Pennsylvania, pulls out on Thursday. There will still be like a 1 to 2 inch deal going on as this tapers off into the Atlantic Ocean, and then that's when we're going to get those high winds after the massive snow dump in the areas all the way from Maine going down through Rhode Island, Connecticut, Long Island, and then you can see how it kind of ends there on Long Island. This is where the high winds are going to be. We're talking 60, 70, possibly 80-mile-an-hour winds. Once again, Nantucket, you are at risk for this. Any of the exposed areas of the coast here, this is going to be a very cold wind too. So it's just one thing after another with these systems, guys. And you know what? I want it gone just as much as you do. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of reporting bad weather. But you know what? Someone's got to do it. We got to talk about this stuff. We need to be prepared. We need to be aware of it. I was talking to people last week before Nor'easter Riley hit that people in New York and even Pennsylvania and Long Island had no clue this was even coming. They did not talk about this on your local weather until almost 24 hours before it happened. And that leaves little to no time to prepare for it. So that's why I like doing this stuff. That's why I like giving you guys the heads up. I don't try to exaggerate things. I show you exactly what I'm seeing, and I will never tell you to go buy supplies. I'm sure, like I said, many of you are adults. You know when it's the time to buy supplies or to stock up on extra stuff if you lose power. We just got over massive power outages from Winter Storm Riley and then Nor'easter Riley, I guess you can call it. People still without power as of right now in parts of New York and surrounding areas. So this is a pretty significant situation. We just got to keep an eye on it. We got to follow it. And to conclude, once again, guys, anyone in Louisiana, you need to be on your toes right now and watching that local weather, because there are tornado warnings and a strip going right into Mississippi, and that could extend for a little while. It's probably going to be a 2 or 3 hour event. But we know how this works. That could spawn tornadoes at any given time. When you get that west-to-east shear wind, high-level winds, and then that updrift from the Gulf mixing together, it causes the spin. You get tornadoes. That's how it works. And it's just really interesting how we have that type of situation going on, which is more of a spring-type situation. So we have spring in this area, and then we have a just straight-up winter frozen going on in the northern plains. And then again, we are going to have a mix of that rain strip that's moving up into the northeast, and then the mix of Winter Storm QUINN, which will drop 2 feet of snow in some of the coastal areas, and then a average of 6 to 8 inches all over New York. The higher levels will be to the east of the Great Lakes, That will include Ohio and then northwest Pennsylvania, which is where Erie is, and then you have Watertown and Buffalo. Places we have talked about many, many times this year. So I just wanted to touch base with you guys. Anyone from basically North Dakota, South Dakota, you move west to east, you are in line for this storm. You will get snow. This is not going to be a rain event. The rain is down in South Texas, and it's going to strip up into this area. By the time it reaches West Virginia, that's when that cold line is going to be there. So anyone's guess is where that line is going to be by the time we hit tomorrow afternoon, which is when apparently the northeast of Pennsylvania will be getting hit the hardest, which is where I am right now. All right, guys, I wanted to keep this short and get right to the point for you. We do have some other stuff going on. We have another system forming in the west by California and Washington and Oregon, areas like that. That could be yet another snow system. So winter is not over yet. Let's hope that some of this stuff ends by the time we can actually mentally go into spring. But as of right now, it's just system after system. You can see right here, even the 11th into the 13th, we have some massive storms that are going to cross over Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. And then we have this strip that actually seems to backtrack in the Gulf that's going to cause a lot of issues anywhere to the west of Lake Okeechobee in Florida. We're talking up to 5 to 6 inches of rainfall, and that is going to be moving west to east, just as this second nor'easter in 2 weeks is moving out into the Atlantic. All right, guys, so we will dig into this as it comes. I just wanted to give you an update. I'm back in the office, and it's time to get back to work. I hope everyone had a good weekend besides the ones shoveling, and I hope you have a good work week. We'll talk soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.